Our major character is Tom Buchanan from F. Scott Fitzgerald's The Great Gatsby. Tom is egotistical because he's very absorbed in himself, aggressive because of the way he acts towards women, and short-tempered because he cannot control his anger. This light bulb represents the moment Tom realized that Daisy and Gatsby were in love, and you can find this on page 119. This Kanye head represents Tom's arrogance. Just because I'm stronger and more of a man than you are, you can find this quote on page 7 that really expresses Tom's arrogance. We picked the Kanye head because Kanye is an idol in the music industry that is known for being overconfident and all about himself. We picked these googly eyes to represent Tom has his eyes on more than one woman. And you can find this on page 26, where he talks about his mistress, Merle. We picked this ghost to represent that Tom was not there for the birth of his child. Well, she was less than an hour old, and Tom was God knows where. You can find this quote on page 16 and 17. We picked this big nose to show that Tom was always in Gatsby's business and always trying to find out about him. And you can see this quote on 122. About Gatsby, no, I haven't. I said I've been making a small investigation of his past. We picked this knife to represent that Tom cuts off several characters throughout the novel, especially his wife Daisy, and you can find this on page 10 and 126. We picked this heart to show that Tom will always have love for his wife. Even though he cheats on her, he'll always come back to her, and he expresses this on page 131. We picked this muscular body to show, because it expresses about Tom's body that he is very built and strong, and talks about how his muscles are always ripping or bearing through his shirts. And this is on page 7. We picked this bottle of whiskey to show that Tom is always drinking. And you can tell by this quote on page 120, I'll get some whiskey. And then we have this boxing glove to show that he likes to fight and that he's very aggressive because he punches his mistress Merle on page 37. We pick these two pictures of a dog and a pearl necklace because Tom buys gifts for the woman he loves. This dog, you can find on page 28, he bought for Merle along with the leash for the dog, and then this expensive necklace that he bought for Daisy before they got married, and you can find that on page 76.
Next, we have our minor character, Mr. Wolfsheim. He is from New York, and you can see that on page 73. Our 3 adjectives are that he's Jewish, mysterious, and he's also wealthy because he's in the mob business and he's also a gambler. Mysterious because we don't know much about him, and he's also Jewish. The baseball cap, as shown, says 1919, representing that he's the man who fixed the World Series back in 1919, and that is shown on page 73. We used a nose with hair on it to represent his flat nose with hair luxuriated in each nostril, and that is described on page 69 in the story. We chose the beard because he's very old, and you can see that on page 72 where he talks about how he's too old to be talking about young things when he's talking to Nick. And then we have the blue heart with a bite out of it and a quote that says, "Let us show our friendship for a man when he is alive and not after he is dead," as said on page 172. And that is when he's talking about the pain he feels after Gatsby's death. And on page 171, he tears up. Then on page 72, he talks about his human molars on his cufflinks, which, as he has said, they were the finest human molars. And we also have the boot, which is considered, well, the boot represents that he was a bootlegger and also a gambler. The quote says, "Mayor Wolfsheim? No, he's a gambler." And that was said by Gatsby on page 73. And the boot again represents he's a bootlegger, which is on page 133. Then we have the letter on page 166, is where he writes to Nick about why he can't attend Gatsby's funeral because he doesn't want to get mixed up in things. And that is our minor character, Mr. Wolfsheim.